Hello. I had a thought sitting in my bed because I was watching Charmed. Why I look so why I look so cute like this. I'm like don't look at that. Um I was just huddled up in my bed, cozy, and I just had a little bit of breakfast, some oatmeal and stuff. That's what you saw in the background. But I had a thought because I was watching Charmed. And it's kind of like a morning thing that I like to do. Ooh, hold on. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. But I had a thought. Because I was watching like the episode to where they have to like they met Sam. They had to confront how their mom died, right? And it started sparking a thought that I had involving with Dan versus Jason. Um, because when I see videos being made, I feel like involving Charm, probably talk about the plot and the sisterhood, and mistakes they made, which is great. But what maybe I'm just not on that side too much of Charm, but I'm glad Charm is getting more what's the word, recognition, or if not attention, on TikTok. But for me, involving the relationship aspect, I watched slash listened to the Ratched Charm one, and he is of course not a uh what's it? He calls him Lily, Leo fan. But for me, I want to briefly talk about the basically, if not the correct word, comparison, if not parallel, involving Piper's relationship with Dan versus Phoebe's relationship with Jason. And I feel like both relationships had its, what's the word, mishaps, and um like you could see the red slash yellow flags. If I don't really like using the flags involving with this, but you can see how and where the relationship went wrong. And I think involving with both Dan and Jason, both of them were human, and they both kind of ended um basically after finding out that the sisters were witches. So when Dan found out Piper was a witch, it was because of essentially he was getting older based off a spell, and they had to, if I'm not mistaken, he was getting older, and he was like, what's happening to me, blah blah blah. And at that point he didn't want anything to do with Piper after that. And then she did a spell to make him forget and have him move on, versus, and this is where I prefer the way Jason and Phoebe ended versus how Dan and Piper ended. Like, I like Dan, um but let me finish my point. Let me finish my point involving with Jason. So the way Jason and Phoebe ended. So involving with Jason unfortunately he found out with another like debacle involving a spell gone awry, to where he was like doing this grand merger with France and in America, blah 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 blah, with all that business stuff, right? And he unfortunately found out. Now, mind you, she was like legitimately planning to tell Jason. Of course, she was avoiding it, just like I would. She was avoiding it, but he ended up finding out, of course, in not so great of a way. And basically, the way their relationship ended, to where Jason was like, I cannot emotionally probably handle this. This is a whole new world for me. And he was like, at this he could basically like who I am as a person. I don't think I'm capable of handling this. And he was already in his head, and he was like, I'm not even good at regular relationships, as in if you weren't a witch. And aka him being aware of the mistakes he made in his relationship with Phoebe, involving he wasn't really around. He was showering her with gifts. He clearly was not around enough to really know her as a person. And of course he wanted to spend time with her. Of course he wanted to be with her. But involving their dynamic, it wasn't really working too well. Now mind you, he did move from a space of being her direct boss to kind of like being like a boss in the background. He wasn't like, really like over her, which is what I was glad to see, because I don't know how much that would really last, because of people read it and talk about those things, but Phoebe loved her job, and I was like, I don't want Phoebe to ever have to like, in a real life scenario, ever have to like leave her job because she ends up with a boss to where they don't end up working out. It becomes awkward, it becomes strained, all that stuff. So he kind of took a back seat, and he became like a silent boss. He became a non he what is it what do they call it in the business sense, a benefactor, like basically a benefactor, a person in the background. He doesn't he has money, he has stake in the game, but he's not actively like a CEO. He's not a CEO. He's like a chairman or something like that. And basically, I like that Jason was very much aware of his faults, and I feel like involving with Jason, the way compared to the way Dan left, it was based off magic. So he didn't have much of a choice, and I didn't necessarily like that. I'm like, everyone deserves to have free will, especially with the girls fighting for their own lives and not it being controlled and taken over, and them feeling like they're just constantly just for the greater good, for the greater good, for the greater good. Essentially, what is it, season 7? They do it for a lot of seasons, but for season 7 specifically, involving with Billy's situation, they were like, they realized it was, really okay to be selfish, and it wasn't bad for them to want to have normal lives. And I don't know, it was one of those things where I just did not like the way they handled Dan versus the way they handled Jason. Like, Jason was like, I understand, I acknowledge this, and he walked away knowing and understanding. They didn't just wipe his brain. They didn't just she didn't just suddenly cut him off. It wasn't anything like that. It was, I cannot handle this. I know why I can't handle this. I know why a relationship cannot work. Even I know why. Honestly, he knows why. How I wouldn't be, how I wasn't a great partner to you. And he walked away knowing that, she would be fine, and the relationship was coming to like, I don't know. They ended. What's the word? Commandically? No, not commandically. Adamically? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Like, they ended on good terms. I feel like they really did end it on good terms, and it wasn't like a magical fix. I feel like that was one of the like realest relationships that they had, like with Prue and Andy. That's just one of the reasons why I like Jason, and I like their relationship, and I wish it could work, but obviously I understand for the reasons that were displayed as to why it could not work. But yeah, I like that Jason, I feel like, would be better off as a person and as a man in a relationship, because he learned from his mistakes. Versus with Dan, it was just magical fix, and I feel like he would probably still have those patterns and didn't necessarily learn anything from that relationship. He just, we broke up and we couldn't work out for mysterious reasons. My long-winded rant.